All right, everybody, this is Quantimo Mechanic. I'm going to show you guys how I do brakes. I'll try to talk as I go through this. This is an impact driver. This is a Honda. So I like to use these impact drivers to get these brake rotor screws off. They're so much easier. Never have any issues with this. There's been many times I've gone out to a customer call, have a 1 hour minimum, and I'll just come out there and bust their screws loose like that. They're happy as a clam. I'm there for less than 2 minutes. I get paid and leave. A really, really good tool. This is made by Mac. Right now I'm just using a pry bar because I'm going to replace the pads and rotors as you always should. And I'm just using the pry bar to pry between the brake pad and the rotor to push the piston all the way in. As I'm pushing it in, I'm feeling to see if it's going in smoothly or not. Now, this is a Honda, so we know that we're going to be 12 millimeter up here, so we'll crack those loose. Helps if we go the right way. I'm just cracking them loose right now because it's easier to crack loose now than it is later. It's all right. That's one of the things about these spline drive sockets, is that sometimes they get stuck on there, so we've got to be careful. Next, I already know these are going to be tight, so I'm going to grab the 17 millimeter and make sure we're going the right way this time. And bust these loose. And you can do it before you take the piston off or after. It's a little bit easier if you do it after, just because it gives you a little bit more room. Using the Milwaukee Insider with a swivel socket from Gear Wrench. These work really great. So we'll take this bottom one off first. And then we'll take the top one off. And then this one, because I did the other side, I know I have to loosen up this hold down bracket for the flexible hose, give me a little bit more room. I like these metal hooks. Take this off. And then we hook it onto something. It doesn't really matter what, as long as we're not resting on the flex hose there. Take the old pads off. Look how thin they were. The other sides were even worse. I use these little pocket pry bars. Help get these brake pads off a lot easier. And you see how it's more a little uneven? It's a little bit thicker here than it is a little bit thinner over here. That's because the slide pins weren't properly lubricated. We're gonna fix that. I'm gonna take off these bracket bolts. And there it is. I'm gonna go ahead and take these slide pins out. I wanna be careful not to rip this boot here, because I don't want to have to replace that. These are actually greased pretty nicely. They're actually, you got a bit of movement to them, a little bit of spring back. That's good. But we're going to clean them out and re-lubricate them anyway. I like to use my pocket pick here to get any gunk out from the inside of these boots. We're going to put some brake cleaner in here as well. If these are really bad, I'd use a drill bit or some kind of power driven wire brush in there to clean it out, but these aren't too bad. I don't like to take these rubber boots off, but we're going to take them off for now anyhow, just so we get a little bit more room. And you can see, you can't see it, but I can feel the grease that they used was good, but it's turned yellow and it's just dirty now, so it's a good thing we're doing this. Okay. Now we twist it and pop it out. And then I always replace these. I don't even look at them. Okay. And because this brake cleaner can take a little bit of time to dry, I'm gonna go ahead and hop this in there now. And I try to use the can upright like that. Sometimes it happens like that, or the red nozzle falls off. Okay, and I already know that I'm gonna have to transfer this adjustment dust cover boot off onto the new one. This has internal drums. You see all the dust in there. The bad thing about drums discs is that they're not self-cleaning and they're not self-adjusting like disc brakes are. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean off the inside of here. And if you're at home and you're curious if somebody has done a clean and adjust on your rear brakes, a lot of these springs come with this painted little colors on here, and sometimes the springs themselves are color coded. The full thing is printed. But as soon as you throw brake cleaner on it, all that paint comes off. So if you're curious if you're getting screwed over by your local mechanic and you want to check, that's one way to look at it. I also keep this underneath, so I keep the driveways, or this oil catch underneath to keep the driveway clean. And I can tell whoever did this job last knew what they were doing. I'd like to shake their hand because they clearly cleaned and lubricated this assembly here before they put the rotor on, which is really good. So I like cleaning off this old grease. They did a really great job there. I really would like to shake their hand, probably the dealer. They're the only ones that really do that nowadays. Next, I'm going to take my attachment. Half-inch attachment. It has a brush on the side. Clean this off. We really want to make sure that our brake rotor is going to ride flush on here. Use this M12 right angle grinder. This thing works fantastically. Just with a pretty coarse row lock disc, because I don't like to sit here all day long. Okay, that's done. We've cleaned this. It doesn't really need an adjustment because it was already pretty tight on there. And when I put the new rotor on, it's going to be even tighter. So I think it's fine where it is. Now this is the lubricant I like to use. Brake parts lubricant. I get this at O'Reilly's. This stuff works really good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel this back here, and I can use a pry bar or a screwdriver or anything really, but I'm going to pry it back just a little bit because I want to get up in here and I want to lubricate the backing plate. Okay, I want to be careful not to get this on the brake pad. This one just takes a little bit, and if I get it on the brake pad, it's not a big deal. I can always wipe it off. There's usually 3 spots on these, and pretty much every car has been the same for like ever. Just a little bit on there. Like I said, if we get it on the brake pad, or the shoes, excuse me, it's not a big deal. Luckily for us, it just wipes off, and this isn't the primary braking. This is just for parking, so it's not a huge deal if you get it on there anyhow. Okay, so we just want to lubricate that up, just so they don't hear it when they go to apply the parking brake. Like I said, you really don't have to do it unless it's the primary means of stopping, or 40% means, because we split the braking 60-40 or 70-30 or somewhere in that. Most of it's in the front, less braking powers in the rear. Okay, so this is the new rotor. Luckily for me, these are not directional rotors or any kind of thing, so it's there's no specific part number for left or right. Now these rotors come with a coating on them, like a grease coating. So what we want to do is we want to clean that grease coating off because it'll cause the the pads to get all gummed up on there. So it doesn't take too much. We'll do the internal drum and the outside here. And then when you grab it, you got to be careful not to get your greasy hands all over it, because we'll clean it again too before we're done. And I also want to make sure that it has a non-directional cross hatching on there. So that looks really great. Next thing I'm going to do is take some copper-based anti-seize, and I'm going to put it, you could put it here on the hub assembly if you wanted to, but I find it's much easier and faster to just put it on the brake rotor itself. It's a little bit easier to spread. You don't have to worry about it getting on the threads of your for your lug nuts there. it's just so much faster and so much easier. And this is how I do it. And there's other products you could use, like there's sprays that you can buy, but I like this one just because I use it for other things as well. Okay, so there we go. That's what it looks like. Doesn't have to be perfect. And because this one is a Honda, we're going to make sure that we match up the thread hole, the keeper screw, if you will. That's much better. Get that brake rotor out of the way. Put it in the old box with the new box that the new rotor came in. And you see I'm kind of accidentally touching around. These don't have to be super tight either, okay? I want to make it easy for the next guy. And you see I'm touching around it, that's okay. This is easy to access, so if I need to wipe it down with more brake cleaner, I can when I'm done, because I know I'm going to get dirty. I'm going to get it dirty again. Okay, so that's that. The next thing I'm going to do is bust out this right angle die grinder again, and I want to clean the mating surface for the bolts, the bracket bolts here. And then I'm going to clean the best I can with this, because I like it the best. I'm going to clean that shoulder where the brake pads ride. This one's pretty dirty. If I had a proper shop, I would put this in a parts cleaner or sandblaster or something like that. But this is the best I can do with what I got. I'm just using the edge of that roll lock disc because it won't quite fit in there. And these wire brushes I like to use the best. These work really good for cleaning off pretty much anything related to brakes. That's why I like them, and they last a good long time. So you can pick them up at Harbor Freight for cheap. That's why I like them too. Cheap is my middle name. Actually, it's Danger. All right. Okay, got that off. We're nice and dry on the inside there. I like to see that. Next, I'm going to clean off these slide pins. You could use brake cleaner if you need to, but you really don't need to. These are cleaning up pretty well. Whoever did this brake job last, I think they knew what they were doing. I like that. I appreciate that. Give some respect where it's due, you know? Okay, and then, actually, before I forget, let's put these back on there. And these just shove in there pretty easily. You can use like a little pocket screwdriver if you wanted to help. And I'm also, like I said, I want to make sure there's no holes or rips in these boots, and they look really good. Okay, so I cleaned off one. Next, we'll clean off the other. Sometimes you'll find that these slide pins are a different length or a different diameter, just slightly different. That's not the case this time. Okay, I'm also going to take a little bit of Loctite and stick it in there, so that way when I go to thread on the bolts, they thread on nicely. Okay, so this is Seal Glide. This is what I use exclusively for slide pins. You don't want to use the same lubricant for everything. Okay, just a little bit on the outer diameter, nothing on the edge there. Okay, and we'll shove them back in and we'll rotate them as we put them in, and then make sure they got some push to them, which they do. They look great. Do the same thing on this one, not too much. We want to use this stuff really sparingly, just a really light coat. Okay, nothing on the end, because if you have it on the end, this is incompressible. So if you have it on the end, it won't push all the way in through because it's trying to compress the grease, so it won't go all the way through. So you just want it on the edge. Very important. Okay, push it in. That looks great. Next, we'll get our brake pads. Now these brake pads I use have like a felt backing here, so I'm not going to lubricate. I'm going to lubricate it, but I'm not going to lubricate the back plate or the backing part of it. You'll see what I'm talking about in a second. These just go in there, pretty much only go in one way. You want to make sure that the rotor's not going to hit this, so you want to have space between like that, so that way the rotor's not getting on anything. Now I like to take my brake parts lubricant here, and I like to put it on it now, on these shims right now. Okay, and the reason I do that is twofold, or threefold really. It's faster, one. Two, it's cleaner. And 3, I don't get it all over my hands, and you'll see what I'm talking about in a second. And you got to push those brake pads up. And then before we forget, let's take our dust cover, which I know. See, even though you try to be organized, not always. Okay, a little bit of this anti-snubby deal. And then this right here, same thing. Throw it in there, and you can use your little pocket screwdriver to pop it in there just like that. Okay, and this just makes it easy to pop it off, so you can use a brake spoon to adjust the adjuster. Like I said, we don't need to. These look good. They feel good. Okay, so we got that done. We could go ahead and bolt this on right now, but I'm not going to just yet. I'm going to set it aside. That's done. Okay, the next thing I'm going to start working on is this piston here. See how nasty and covered in rust it is? We're just going to, it doesn't have to be perfect because the customer's not paying for a service on this. We're not rebuilding this, okay? We're just doing pads and rotors. But you still want to give a good quality product to the customer. So I'm going to move this over a little bit.
I'm going to spray it in there. I'll use my pocket pry bar again to knock this off. This is like the retention springs. That kills the job, right? Take that off. Okay. Clean it up. We'll hit it with the wire brush one more time. Back side here. And we'll be careful that when we're doing this, we're not hitting the boot in there too and scratching up and causing damage. I'm going to clean that up. Just doesn't quite feel right. Okay, there we go.
Good. I'll take that brake parts cleaner. Or excuse me, the brake lubricant. And I'm going to dab the inside here where the brake pad's going to rest on the back side. And then the piston itself, just a light little dab in there. A little bit more is better than a little bit less. Right? So now that's pretty much done. Okay, I'm happy with that. I'm going to go ahead and take and clean this off one more time, just so it's a little bit easier to get to right now. Next, we'll put our bracket on. And before I forget to, do the same thing. We'll put a little bit of Loctite in here. All right. So now, over here, I kind of want to be careful that I'm not hitting the brake rotor all too much. Accidental contact here and there is okay. And we're going to go German torque specs on this, which is Guten tight. Okay. All right, that looks good. Next is these Hondas have like a spring-loaded retaining. And I'm going to put a little bit of grease on the backside here, and then that's going to go inside where the piston is. Make sure I put it in there right. It'd be embarrassing if I didn't. If we get it on the brake pad, the grease, that's okay because it wipes off. Just like that. We'll take our next brake pad, take it in here just like this, and this slides over, comes right down. You see that? So I don't have an excessive amount of grease in here. If I would put the grease on the pad itself, when I go to handle the pad, I'd get grease all over my hands. It'd just get all over the place, and it's messy, and I don't like getting messy. Actually, you know what? I almost forgot here. See, I did forget. I didn't almost forget. I did totally forgot. This retaining spring back in there. This is a new one. Okay. Use my little pocket pry bar to peel it back just a little bit and center it back up. Yeah. Why not? Why do something once when you can do it twice, right? I thought it went in there just a little bit too easy. Okay, that was It's a little embarrassing. And I'm gonna make sure that that's nice and clean. So put a little bit of brake cleaner on there. Really make sure we got all the grease off. With the brake pads off. All right, that looks good. Throw this back on. Take 2. Okay, here we go. And I already have my Loctite on, or excuse me, my thread locker on here. Okay, always want to start any fastener you do by hand first. Never just want to crank it down with the impact gun or whatever it is you're using. A little adjustable on here, that's okay. I have a set of thin wrenches specifically for this job, but this works too. These don't have to be super tight. I just want to make sure they're not going anywhere. Like I said, German torque specs. I always like to give these a push over to make sure that they're sliding well. Make sure I installed everything correctly. It looks straight. It's riding evenly. Looks good. That's it. That's how we do rear brakes on a Honda. Really, any brake job's the same thing. So just make sure you clean everything up right. Make sure you lube it right. Make sure you use the correct kind of lubricant. And do what you can not to strip these out. All right, thanks for watching, guys.